All right. Good morning. Good morning and evening, everyone. Welcome to this forum, Inclusive Islam Curriculum Rooted in Human Rights for Children. My name is Annie Zonneveld, and I'm the founder and president of Muslims for Progressive Values and the founder of the human rights umbrella organization Alliance of Inclusive Muslims. In the 15 years that I've been working in human rights, I've seen a lot of oppression, sadness, and hopelessness. These are the products of a society or a family environment that is unjust and oppressive. How can we live in peaceful and in fulfilling lives if we don't have peace in our hearts? How can we manifest peacefulness in our day-to-day lives, in our interactions with others, if we just don't have it in us? Peace comes from respect and dignity in how we treat others and all of God's creations and the environment. It is only from there that we can develop a functional and flourishing society. Our curriculum teaches children these very complex philosophical concepts of peace, respect, belief, critical thinking, yes, your right to think and express yourself, pluralism, equity, and what your child can do to make a difference in this world. We will teach a liberation theology of Islam rather than the oppressive kind. What this curriculum isn't is the ritual of prayer or memorization of verses, as in the American or the Western version. And in the Burundi version, we do teach the verses of the Quran, memorization, and hadith. Today, we will be sharing the two different curriculums created for the two very different societies for both, teaching the fundamentals aspects of peace. For Muslims in the West, this curriculum is designed for children with parents of mixed heritage and religion. If you are a Muslim parent married to a non-Muslim, where can you send your child for an Islamic education that respects the non-Muslim parent's religion and heritage? For Muslims in Burundi, and adaptable to the African context, how can we raise children imbued with the same concepts in its specific environment? For example, addressing the destruction of our environment in the Western context is very different from that in Africa. In the West, we have a problem with consumerism and how that contributes to the destruction of the environment, while in Africa, it is about not polluting or defecating near a water source. As someone who lives in America and as one who has worked in Africa in the last 5 years, in the context of Islam and human rights, it is clear to me that we need to overhaul our value system. And it starts with children. Values of human rights, of inclusivity, egalitarianism, and justice. Until these values are inculcated, we will continue to fight an uphill battle. We will, for decades to come, be having the same conversations about women and girls' rights. When I look into the eyes of some of women and girls in an oppressed environment, their eyes are lifeless. There's no sense of purpose and no happiness. I have seen how that changes in workshops we've conducted where we teach them that no, the Quran doesn't justify wife beating or the right for you to inherit or force marriage. I see wings grow. They leave empowered, and most importantly, the Islam that they believe in, one that is part of their identity, is not the oppressor, but is being misused by the oppressors. Many of the UN environments speak of religion as being the problem. I can understand that, but secular language has not alleviated misogynistic and harmful practices, has it? It is therefore important to speak to the people you want to affect change in their language, and in this case, it is Islam, a human rights affirming interpretation of it. As a content creator, I had the privilege of lending my Islamic human rights expertise with Shalina Tareen's expertise in early child development. Together, we have created a curriculum that utilizes the science of whole child development with their social, emotional, physical, mental, and identity development. So, through the various teaching methods with storytelling, book reading, including from non-Muslim authors, poetry, and my favorite, lots of music, we have created a curriculum that is fun as well as challenging. In Burundi, I partner with Imam Khalfan Bukuru Eli in creating a curriculum specific for the Muslim community there. The environment in madrasas and Muslim societies are often violent. Children experience humiliation, verbal abuse, and even severe beatings. This is not the love and compassionate environment for children that is taught in the Quran or in the examples of Prophet Muhammad toward children. We need to change this environment as violence perpetuates violence, and that is the problem in much of the Muslim world. In both curricula, we want to lay down the foundation for the child for a life that is meaningful, peaceful, happy, and most importantly, purposeful. Today, our two panelists, each who is working on creating a culture rooted in human rights in Muslim societies, both in the West and in the global South, will share the outlines of their curriculums, specific lessons, and teaching techniques for the targeted geographic demographies. This panel will offer insight on two different curriculums, one developed for Muslims in the West, and the second developed specifically for the Muslim community in Burundi. We believe it will take just 8 years of consistent exposure to a well-developed human rights framework for the affected children to be imbued with these values, hopefully putting an end to an endless cycle of inequality and violence. After the presentations, we will have ample time for a Q&A. We are glad you are here. We hope you will partner with us in implementing the curriculum in your respective communities and families. I'd like to now introduce our two panelists. Imam Khafan Boukour Eli is an imam in Burundi, founder and president of Alliance de Imam de Corridor Nord pour le Développement Humanitaire, or AICNDH in Burundi, and the global director of Imams Fashi for the umbrella human rights organization Alliance of Inclusive Muslims. He is a longtime partner of Muslims for Progressive Values, an unapologetic defender of girls' and women's rights, and a human rights defender, and he is a very dear friend of mine. Shalina Tareen is an expert in early child education with 24 years of experience. She is proficient in managing the administration of an educational institution and overseeing its routine functions, as well as coaching and mentoring teachers in curriculum and behavior management. She is skilled at partnering with parents to provide positive parenting solutions and with strong communication skills that allow for a rich interaction with children. Ms. Tareen is based out of Los Angeles and is a member of the National Association for the Education of Young Children, and she is also an author of a children's book on a growth mindset called The Learning Steps. And she too now is a dear friend of mine. Shalina, I'd like to now give the spotlight to you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Ani, for the amazing introduction. Hello, everybody. I am Shalina Tareen. I'm an early childhood educator and director with over 24 years of experience in the field. I am also the founder and president of Childhood Matters, which is an organization that provides resources for children to help them cope with big life changes. We offer coping skills for children to help manage their big emotions when they are struggling with things like chronic illness, hospitalization, death of a young one, divorce, anxiety or fear, and even separation anxiety. We use mindfulness, play therapy, art therapy, ecotherapy, and sensory integration to empower children. As Ani said, I'm also the co-author of the Inclusive Islam curriculum. Today, I would like to start my presentation with a visual meditation, and please know that participation is completely optional. Okay. So for this visual meditation, all you need is a piece of paper and a writing tool. So I'm going to give you a second to just grab that if you have it around you. You will start with the pen in the middle of the paper. As you breathe in and out, draw lines for each breath. When you breathe in, take in all your happy and powerful thoughts and be peaceful. Draw a line in any direction. Keep the pen on the paper, and when you breathe out, let go of any negative thoughts or feelings that you're having as you draw another line. Keep doing this as you breathe in and out. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to complete this exercise. Let's get started. 30 seconds do pass by quickly. If you can put your pens and pencils down. As you focused on your breathing today, you were mindful of the present. You were letting go of all negative feelings and taking in positive ones. And you were regulating your nervous system. I thank you so much for participating. We will move on to this quote by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. If we live as we breathe, take in and let go, we cannot go wrong. I like this quote because it reinforces that if we practice letting go of things rather than holding on to negative feelings, we can find internal peace and are able to radiate that towards others. This is also what Islam promotes, being peaceful and helping others find peace as well. On the screen, you see what is mental health. You're probably wondering, why am I talking about mental health today? I want to address this because as we go about introducing Islam and human rights to our very young children, we want to make sure that this is done in a way that helps them feel safe and empowered. And this can only be done if we support the whole child in the learning process, including their cognitive, social, emotional, mental, physical, and identity developmental areas. The mental health is most important as that strongly affects children's learning. What is mental health, you ask? According to the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of well being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to her or his community. And this is what our goal is for our children, that they are able to become active contributors to their communities. How does mental health affect children's learning? As you know, learning is an emotional process. Children feel excited when they learn something new, they're embarrassed about making mistakes, and scared or fearful of being wrong or misunderstood. I think that's pretty much true about adults as well. Fostering positive emotions in classrooms helps support good mental health and motivates students to learn, while negative emotions like stress or alienation inhibits their learning. How can educators establish positive learning experiences? Children learn best when they feel safe. Educators must encourage children to identify and express their emotions to help them feel safe and supported in the learning journey. All emotions are valid, whether they're happy, sad, frustrated, feeling angry. We must help children manage big emotions. That's our job. Children benefit socially, emotionally, and academically when teachers intentionally create close, trusting relationships. How many of you can look back and have fond memories of a certain teacher? Did that teacher make an extra effort to connect with you? By using nurturing and positive interactions, educators increase student comfort and make lifelong learners. And of course, teachers can make this also happen by making their lessons fun and engaging. When you create a positive learning environment, children feel accepted, they feel seen, and they feel valued. Let's talk about learning outcomes. When we have a positive classroom climate where teachers use strategies like redirection, logical consequences, and positive reinforcement, children look forward to learning. They want to come and learn. They form positive connections to the materials that are being taught, and it promotes compassion and empathy in the children. How about negative classroom climate, where teachers are using things like yelling, humiliation, and even physical punishment? Children don't want to be in that environment. They're scared, they fear learning. They form negative associations to the materials that is being taught, and it promotes hatred, it promotes violence. I am going to read this out to you. It's on the screen as well, but I just love what Dorothy Law has written here. If a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. If a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If a child lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. If a child lives with shame, he learns to feel guilty. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns confidence. If a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a child lives with fairness, he learns justice. If a child lives with security, he learns to have faith. If a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. If a child lives with acceptance and friendship, he learns to find love in the world. With this, I will be presenting an inclusive Islam lesson. I chose this lesson because I want to highlight how Islam promotes good mental health. This activity is actually a group discussion. It's about peace. So what we would do is bring all the children together in a group, and we would explore the word peace and why it is important to feel peaceful. All the educators need at this point is a large poster board and a Sharpie, a marker, and then we have the children all sit down and ask them what peace means to them. They'll come up with some responses. We record the responses on a large poster board so they can see what they have said, and we display this in the classroom. We also explain the meaning of peace to them using the information on the slide, and we will read that together. We also inform them that the word Islam means peace in Arabic. On the screen it says, Islam means peace, but what is peace? Peace can mean quiet and calm, but you can only be quiet and calm when you feel safe. And feeling safe can only come about when you know you're being treated with love, respect, and dignity. Being treated with love, respect, and dignity is a basic human right. Peace, therefore, means being treated with love and respect at home, at school, in our neighborhood, and in our communities. So we would go on with the same lesson, the same discussion, and we talk about feeling safe and peaceful. Feeling safe and peaceful is the right of all God's creations. It is very important that we help ourselves and help each other find peace and feel safe. Peace is found any place where you feel calm in your heart. Ask the children, what makes you feel peaceful? See what they have to say. What are some things that disturbs your peace? You'll be surprised by those answers. Faith helps children feel safe and secure. Next, we will ask the children what safety means to them. What makes you feel safe? And what makes you feel unsafe? Asking the children these questions helps promote their critical thinking skills. Next, we will have a hands-on activity for the children. So for this, we need some materials, simple things like paper, crayons, some glue, some child-friendly pictures that they can cut out from a magazine themselves, things like food, nature, and a picture of the child. So you have the child glue a picture on a paper of themselves, and then help the child trace a circle using something circular that is larger than the picture and big enough to fit in the pictures. Explain that this circle is their inner peace bubble. Have the child glue pictures of all things that make them happy and peaceful inside that circle or the bubble, and have the child glue pictures of things that make them unhappy outside the bubble. Note to parents and educators, this activity has a personal touch and can be used to open discussion on how everyone finds peace in different ways. So as the children compare what they have inside their bubble of peace and outside, it can bring on a really great discussion. And you can see that this simple message of peace can be presented to children in a way that's fun and engaging. It also encourages them to think and ask questions. We want them to ask questions. We also want them to be critical thinkers and problem solvers. As I end this presentation, I want to end by saying, when we teach children about Islam and human rights, we want to make sure that as we deliver this lesson, our message is clear in words and actions, because after all, we are teaching by example. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to pass it on to Ani.
Hi, I'm back. I am going to now share with you a presentation that basically underscores the similarities and concepts between what we do in the inclusive Islam curriculum in the West and with the Burundi curriculum in Africa. So I'm going to share my my PowerPoint now. Okay. Sabhat, there we go. Okay. All right. So the inclusive Islam curriculum. As we've been talking to you, laying down the foundation, the concepts of it, it is basically one that is rooted in human rights, and it is very much inspired by the Sustainable Development Goals, because some of you may know that even the most all the member states have signed on to the Sustainable Development Goals. In Muslim contexts, it is not really accepted as it is more seen as a threat to Sharia law and to the ways of the ways of the Muslim societies in the community. So, oftentimes we experience religious leaders actually challenging human rights norms as being anti-Sharia law, and so. What the inclusive curriculum basically is inspired by the Sustainable Development Goals, and then we basically use the Quran and Hadith to substantiate the positions that's already been established in the Sustainable Development Goals. So the curriculum includes in the Western version of the curriculum. It is developed into 2 units of study with various human rights, environmental issues that are being addressed. And it is really broken down in a way that is inclusive of music and poetry, art activities, like the way Shalina was demonstrating earlier to you. We also have, I'm going to share with you some of the subject titles so that you have a grasp of what is it that we are teaching in the inclusive Islam curriculum for Muslims in the West. So we are not afraid to address the questions of what is Islam, what is God even, because these are not questions that are allowed or encouraged in madrasas and in the Islamic schools, particularly for children. And we also like to address the characteristics of Prophet Muhammad. And in this particular case, we don't just describe him as the prophet and how remarkable his character was, even though he is, but we actually speak about what were his values and how did he exemplify those values. And again, like Shalina was saying, at the end of the day, children are going to learn by example. So we as parents, we as teachers also have to have the best examples demonstrated for it to be convincible and believable. And so when we talk about interfaith relationships and respect for in this particular case, and a good example of the relationship of Prophet Muhammad with Christians, we actually teach children the covenant that Prophet Muhammad had with Christians and the documentation to show evidence of that. And so it is, so the way some of these concepts are actually concepts that I learned as an adult, an older adult even. And these are not concepts that are shared to young children, which we think is really missing, which we think is instrumental in shaping the inclusivity and the inclusive worldview of the Muslim children and in shaping their human rights worldview. So we're very particular proud of about that. We're also we delve down deep in what is the meaning of ummah, redefining that. What does it mean to be a Muslim? And obviously the freedom of expression and your God-given right to think critically and to express that. But more importantly, in the context that we are experiencing now, is that people are using freedom of expression to be abusive and to spread lies, etc. And so what we are doing is we're teaching children the right to express themselves, but to do it truthfully and to do it respectfully without harming somebody else. That's the responsibility of having the freedom of expression. Now, we talk about the environment a lot. We talk about pluralism. Even though we have a chapter on pluralism, we really weave in about pluralism and the value of justice in every level and in every lesson. So I think at the end of the day, when we're teaching children the critical skills, the critical thinking skills, it is also important then to teach them the next step. And then Imam Khafan will show some of that, as far as like, well, if you're going to teach children the critical thinking skills, then what is it what are they going to do with it, right? And so here we teach them how to build partnerships, how to make this world a better place, given the thinking skills that they have. And so it's not enough to have the values and to be imbued with inclusivity and human rights. It is just equally important to realize the potential of your own life and what you can do and how you can live a purposeful life with these skills. All right. Now I'm going to talk about, now that since we're in the context, the commission, the status of women, I'm going to highlight how we address equality, the meaning of what it means to treat each other justly, because after all, as Shalina laid the foundation, we can't excel in life if we don't feel safe. Feeling safe comes from being at peace with yourself, with your family, community, and society. Again, stressing the foundation of securing inner peace is of utmost importance. And so here, when we're talking about the Quran is very clear about equal pay. And I know this is an issue not just in the Muslim society, but here, even in the US, we have had such a debate, and we had to claw our way in order to get legislation passed for equal pay. So here in the Quran, verse 3, 195, I never fail to reward any worker amongst you for any work you do, be you male or female, you are equal to one another. This is a powerful verse that, of course, we as Muslims are not taught, but of course, we as adults in the West, in particular, we are an educated bunch, and so therefore that is one of the reasons why American Muslims, particularly, and Muslims in the West, are really are moving towards the social justice spectrum of Islam, an Islam that is rooted in human rights. When we speak at the United Nations and the SDGs of leaving no one behind, it is important that we also highlight this issue in the context of Islam as well. And when we talk about equal pay in the last slide, it is remarkable that it's not being practiced in Muslim societies, not at the family unit, and certainly not at the level of society. And therefore, the various Sharia courts, because how the community, the Sharia courts is imbued by the values of the community itself. So therefore, this value of equal pay, of valuing everyone's worth equally, must be nurtured from a young age. This value of equality and of not wanting to leave anyone behind can only happen when each person is secure in their own worth, identity, which is again what Shalina spoke about. And so you can see how the root of equality and one's security in achieving this equal values and human rights really is rooted in your own security. And so, why is advocacy so important? We also teach children to advocate for equality and for justice. As I said earlier, it is not enough to learn about human rights values. It is equally important to live up to those values. Now, I'm going to now share a little bit with the curriculum that we've developed in Burundi with Imam Khalfan. And this is created specifically for the Burundi context. And as you can see, we have used comics in this case. We have created we have created storylines around a particular set of values that we want to promote, and then we create the dialogue, and then we create the cartoons around it, and then we create activities. And so first I'm going to share the table of contents of which the curriculum for the Burundi, what we've developed. As you can see, we talk about gender-based violence in chapter 6. We talk about workers' rights in Islam, education in Islam, inheritance. In this particular case, women are often left out of inheritance, family inheritance process. We also talk about family planning. This is very important because women and girls obviously cannot advance economically, cannot achieve economic independence if they do not have reproductive rights and justice. So the right to the education of family planning is equally important and fundamental to women's and girls' rights. So I'm going to share, this is very blurry, I'm sorry, but so I'm going to share just a little bit above just the context of what this cartoon is. It's basically the father is saying to the young teenage daughter that, I'm going to marry you off. And the mother is challenging this and saying, of course you can't do this because she's our child. She deserves equal educational opportunities as our son. And the mother basically is saying, absolutely not. Aisha must go to school. Aren't you forgetting that you are the reason I dropped out of school? Don't you see how much pain that has caused our family and me? Sumaya, my little sister, is a governor, and Zuena is making progress in her career too. And at that point, the husband, concedes that just because you are a girl does not mean that you are not equally intelligent or equally have and should have the opportunity for education in advancing your life and your purpose in life. And so this dialogue, this particular curriculum is about education in Islam, the equality that is imbued in Islam and in education. And this dialogue is basically no school, no future. You can't get more blatant than that. And as part of the activity, you can see the dialogue comprehension questions, and the imam or the teacher will then ask these true false questions that the children are encouraged to respond to. And this is very important. And this may sound for us in the West very redundant when our school system is very much built on the foundation of critical thinking, particularly here in the West, in the United States. But in madrasas, like I said earlier, this is not usually encouraged. It is absolutely discouraged. And so even having dialogue between the teacher and the students, this is a very unique teaching method in madrasas. So this is really quite revolutionary. And in activity 2, this is again highlighting the importance of education. So as you can see, the way we teach our students is very different in the methodology, and it is rooted in creating a safe learning environment, a desire to ask questions, to think critically, and to express your thoughts, and to do so in a respectful and responsible way. Again, circling back to being safe, feeling safe, to ask questions, because like Shalina highlighted, you cannot really excel and cannot really have the desire to learn and the eagerness to learn if you don't feel safe. And having a safe environment in learning is really fundamental to advancing education. And so a lot of times You can take off the slide now, Sabhat. A lot of times, we see funders putting a lot of money into building the infrastructure of a school system, with internet connection, having the desks, the building, and et cetera, et cetera. But what is really missing in a lot of in the educational system that we're seeing is the values that comes with the teaching methodology. You can't, it's great to have the school system, the structure, the infrastructure for an education, for particular for those in the villages that are deprived of basic education. However, it doesn't work, and it really is a waste of money when children, particularly girls, are not allowed to go to school because the imam is telling them, no, girls, there's no purpose for educating girls because they should be married off anyway. And so what we do is we create an ecosystem from which the imams, in our particular case, the imams fashi, which Imam Khalfan will talk about, they are the ones that lead this educational curriculum in their madrasas. It is important that the religious leaders themselves inculcate the values, the importance of educating girls as well as boys. And so having the tools, now we have developed the tools from which the imams can use in their madrasas. We have the imams in our network that actually are using it. And hopefully what is missing in our particular case is the physical infrastructure and the utility and the need of these madrasas and the students actually to implement the curriculum in their society. So the issues that we have is actually the reverse. We don't have the physical infrastructure, but we have the will and the teaching method and the curriculum to do so. So with that, I am going to turn the presentation now to Imam Khalfan. My dear friend, it is your turn to talk about the curriculum in Burundi.
Thank you so much, Annie, for this presentation. Let me start by this quote: "No school, no future," as presented by Annie Zonveld. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good evening to you. This quote, "No school, no future," is from chapter 8 of our Burundi curriculum to show the importance of education of girls in Muslim societies. By implementing the inclusive Islamic curriculum, we have put the children in the madrasa at the heart of fulfilling the objectives of sustainable development goals and in improving peace and social cohesion in our society. The appreciations, enthusiasm, and the commitment of imams to implement the curriculum is due to its relevance and effectiveness of the teaching method, as well as the desire to improve the condition of their communities. This curriculum is important for one, it's important for children. It is not enough to memorize the Quranic verses and the Hadith. It is important to understand the meaning and the human rights values, to care for the environment, to learn about peace, and to learn critical thinking, and to not influence it by violent extremism. Knowledge of basic concepts relating to inheritance and family planning. Knowledge of the harmful effects of not attending school for girls and boys. Memorization of poems stipulating family well-being for peaceful cohabitation. On that matter, a total of 9,885 children from 68 madras are involved by this curriculum. This curriculum also is important for Imams Farsi champions because the curriculum is implemented in 68 madras that are led by our Imams Farsi champions. They strengthen knowledge of human rights in general and the rights of Muslim women and grace in particular, as well as the notion of freedom of religion or belief and the peaceful cohabitation. The ease of delivering lessons according to the learning manual adapted to the children. Also facilitate the preparation of a khutbah or Friday sermon adapted to the reality on the ground. Let's give an example of an imam from Mayorship of Bujumbura. He says during our evaluation, he says, imams are not used to talking about women's rights in madrasa, and they are limited themselves only to making children memorize the verses of the Quran. The inclusive curriculum was an opportunity to review our teaching, to introduce very sensitive and very important subjects in our program, providing us with the Quranic references and the traditions of the Prophet, encourage us to better guide our learners. This is a comment of Imam when you are doing an evaluation of this curriculum. In a different Friday khutbah, 3,254 men and 429 women were involved in 31 mosques member of Isendash network. This curriculum also is important for parents because it is not enough to teach the curriculum to children, it is also important to educate adults and the parents as well. We have to create an ecosystem of these values so that the whole society will move together. The content of the curriculum is used also in different activities of ICNDH, such as educational workshop and forums. A parent whose children follow the teachings of the curriculum are satisfied with the way the children learn the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet with the pure scientific foundations and the basis and the applications according to the real context of the moment, unlike the limited anarchic previous learning practices only to memorization, not accompanied by explicit explanations. An example of a parent give his a comment and his satisfaction by saying, parents complained about the brutality of certain imams towards children and the injustices that those children suffered without being able to denounce them. Many of these children even gave up going to the madrasa because of the learning conditions, which are not favorable for them. Parents were forcing their children to keep on going to despite the precious learning conditions, thinking that it was the teaching method of our religion. With this curriculum, we understood that we were experiencing was rather contrary to what should be done. This is a comment of a parent during our evaluation to give his commitment and his satisfaction about this inclusive curriculum. In that framework, 187 men and 218 women are involved in this forum and educational workshop organized in that matter. This curriculum also is important for ICNDH, our organization, because this curriculum made it possible to disclose the social development goals to a much wider
Well, that's a pity that Imam Khafan has frozen a little bit. I am going to step in to say that the outcome of the implementation of the Burundi curriculum in the last 2 years has actually been very productive and very positive. As he was sharing, parents were complaining about the brutality of certain imams towards children and the injustices that those children suffered without being able to denounce them, because they didn't know as a parent that they could actually complain to the imam about the child's brutality. And so this was an eye-opener for the parents themselves, that there is actually a different way of teaching Islam to their children. So this is very heartwarming for me as a parent. Another positive comment from as a result of the a measurement and evaluation review that we did with Imam Khalfan is imams are not used to talking about women and girls' rights in madrasas, and because they are limited themselves in their teaching skills, because that's not what they are trained to do. So the inclusive Islam, gave them the utility in order for them to be able to practice a different way, a method of teaching. And so this is also some of the feedback that we got. So I don't know if you caught it, but we are actually using this curriculum for 9,885 children in 68 madrasas that are taught by our Imams Fashin network of imams, in which Imam Khalfan has cultivated over the last 5 years that we've been working together. So some of the challenges is that, we have, again, very limited hardware, which is, the school infrastructure, but also the books, the comics. Those are very expensive to print. And so we were able to print 100 copies in which we shared. So one school has to share one student with 15 others, as an example. So it is a bit challenging in this regard. Of course, we need the projectors, like I said earlier, the infrastructure. This is the problem. So in conclusion, the behavior change is a long process, but it is not as long as most funders would have you, or most those in the UN human rights world would have you. I know that we've affected change in 5 years in our operations in Burundi, and it takes definitely more than the 2-3 year funding cycle in order to affect change, just to be brutally honest. Imam Khafan, so I was actually finishing up on your presentation, but I'll give you I'll let you have your last remarks, but I'm already at the conclusion of your presentation. The change will not the most beautiful thing about all of this is that the society themselves wants change. The society, the parents, the imams, everybody wants change. And so therefore, that's why this curriculum is actually an easy sell. It's going to be a hard sell if there's no willingness to affect change. And so this is the beautiful aspect of our curriculum. And so we know that it will take 2 to 8 years to really cultivate the culture of human rights in societies. And the way I look at it, if you start at 5, by the time they're 13, their value system is on solid foundation. And when they are ready to vote in a democratic society, they will vote for the candidate that reflects their values, which will then legislate laws that are based on human rights and equality. It is really that simple, but it is not a 3 to 4 year, 2 to 3 year funding cycle. It is an 8-year funding cycle. So, so this curriculum, inclusive curriculum, has produced the effects, has produced the positive outcome that we have been looking for, and it is at its early stage, but it is definitely a doable one. It is definitely cheaper than what we spend on military hardware. So I will end on that. And Imam Khafan, please have your final remarks, and then we will go into Q&A. Imam Khafan, you can talk about what you want to do in the next 1 year or 2 year with the curriculum, if you want to talk about that.
I don't hear your question, please.
I think okay, I will ask the first question then. So because I basically finished your presentation for you because you were gone, and so I'm going to ask you the question, Imam Khafan. How do you see using the curriculum, given the challenges that you have with not being able to print enough comics, not having the projectors, not having the schooling hard, the infrastructure? How do you see using this curriculum in the next year or 2 years moving forward?
Yeah, I think this curriculum will help to the children to be developed, to understand more, to understand where how is Islam is teaching. And as I told you in my introduction, here in Burundi, Muslims are using are in madrasa. They are only memorization. They can't understand what is the Quran is saying, or what is the Prophet Muhammad is saying in different traditions. So the curriculum will help the learners, the children, when they grow up, to understand where and to use the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet in different matter, in different way, in different foundations, and which are bases of scientific or scientific way. So this curriculum will make new Muslim in Burundi society to be developed, to understand very well who a Muslim must be like that, like that, like that. And this curriculum, as it is designed, it go with the SDGs, the 17 SDGs. So each children must focus to be a good example in society, to be a good leader in society, and also to be a good teacher in society, and to be a good example of a good Muslim in any community and in society. And also, our hope for this curriculum, we wanted to not to stay here in Burundi, because the program of madrasas in Africa is the same. So each madrasa has his own program, and in each mosque has his own program. So for even two mosques who are neighbors are different program. So I think this curriculum will help us to give a specific program which must be used in all countries and in all Africa, and it will be also good to enhance it and to adapt according to the context of each countries. It is our hope which we get, for example, some funds and or some founders who can support our work, this work, in order to be developed in first in this region, in Great Lakes region, and in whole Africa.
Yeah. There is a nice comment here, Imam Khafan. If you can mute. Congratulations on your effective implementation in Burundi. I hope you continue to have adequate funding to expand your approach to other communities. There was a question from Nina about using this curriculum that we have in Afghanistan, because as we know, girls are deprived of going to school. There's been a lot of interest in this curriculum from Kenya, as well in South Africa, and so I hope that this panel discussion and viewers can watch this after this is over, to learn about the curriculum and to hopefully partner with us in the future. I'm going to ask Shalina if you have anything that you want to add based on the presentations, and how you can tie it all with a nice little knot, as you always do.
I think I'm just excited, hearing all these changes that are taking place in our education systems. I'm hoping that this change evolves and we can get everybody together, parents, educators, and really create a community where we're able to create our actually have our children learn about human rights. And like you said, Ani, in the next 8 years, they're able to really develop and vote for the right candidate, and we can make a change in the world.
If there's no other questions, I would just probably like to end with an ask, and that is for our viewers and for potential partners. You can write to us at info@mpvusa.org, or you can go to the website, which it's scrolling down there at the bottom. But to the potential funders out there, and if you friends and allies watching this, we would really like to partner with UNICEF, because obviously this is a way for us to really scale up the work that we're doing, particularly in Africa, in a way that is much needed and in a way that is so desired in the Muslim communities, whether it be in West Africa or East Africa. So I'm putting it out there to the universe, and please open the door for us. So, and so if there's nothing else, Imam Khafan, Shalina.
I just wanted to say that, I think it's just going to help if everybody shares this message, because the power of social media now is so huge that this message needs to be passed on and this message needs to be shared, so we can be in the eyes of many other people who need to hear this and need to use this. So yeah, social media, do your thing.
Imam Khafan, any last words from you before we say goodbye?
I think it is to thank to everyone who were listening us on this online conference. But I think I can share also a big other measure. As you know, in Burundi we don't have any central training who is in charge of training imams. So I think in the future also we hope to get a center when we train our imams champions in order to get many religious leaders, Muslim religious leaders, who are able to be focused on women's rights, and also to develop a progressive Islam in our country and in our region.
So with that, I thank you so much, Shalina Tareen. I thank you, Imam Khafan, for being on this panel, for sharing your work and your experiences. And thank you, everyone, for attending this forum. And do share, please. Sharing is caring, as they say. All right. Bye. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.